Hello. Sorry, there's some background.
Hello.
Oh no.
Sorry, there's some background.
Sorry, I had the I had the monitor speaker on in the background. Let me try that again.
Welcome to the Joy Code.
Hi, hello, and welcome to episode 216 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. It's so good to see you. We're going to be hacking on Firefox stuff today. Let's get started. What are we doing today? Let me start by switching to my screen. All right, so the agenda. Today is May 20th, 2020. Like I said, it's episode 216. And a reminder, no plan survives breakfast. If this is your first time watching the stream, you might not have heard me say this before. If this is not your first time watching the stream, you've probably heard me say that a bunch of times. No plan survives breakfast means that, none of the stream is really pre-planned. Things can go wrong. Like, for example, I notice that on my right side, some of my green screen isn't extending properly. So I'm just going to adjust. Whoop, nope. The other way. Something like that. Or, you know what? I'll actually just move the screen. No plan survives breakfast. Things can go wrong, and the stream isn't really planned beyond the fact that I kind of know what I want to work on today. I have a vague sense of what it is that I want to work on, but I don't know how things are going to go. Things might go wrong. I might get stuck. It's not like anything I write today will be pre-scripted or pre-solved or anything. So I'm capturing software development in the raw. If that's not what you're here to see, you're in for a real treat. The agenda. Let's talk about the agenda real quick. The agenda is what we're looking at. It has a bunch of handy links. It has ways for you to follow along and click on stuff and follow me if you want to follow me on Twitter or something. But also links to things like how to get access to the Matrix chat room where there's a back channel, or some of the bugs I cover, etc., etc. The episode guide, that sort of thing. So if you're watching this on YouTube, check out the video description for a link to the agenda. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, it'll be in the handout section. And for the folks who are hanging around in the Twitch chat, I'm putting in the link now to the agenda. There it is. Briefly, there is an episode guide. That is completely viewer-driven. So maybe you want to know more about this episode that you're watching, or a past episode, or maybe even a future episode. You should check out the episode guide. It lists almost all of the episodes that I've ever done. I think it actually has all of them. And it has useful information about each one. Sometimes it's really minimal, like it'll just be a link to the agenda and the video on YouTube or something. And for others, it's a little more fleshed out, like episode 211, some of the topics I covered. And because it's completely viewer driven, it means that you too can contribute to it if you want to add your own addenda, corrections, errors, that sort of thing. You want to sort of expand upon something I talked about, or add an alternative, send me a pull request to the repository. And if you're not sure what I mean or how to send a pull request, in the agenda there are links to a contributing guide and how to send pull requests and where the repository is, etc. So you can check those out. There is a pull request actually for episode 215, and like I like to do at the beginning of these, I'm just going to see if we can merge this in right away. So let's take a look. As usual, this one's from SmurfD. Thank you so much, SmurfD, for doing this. This was not last week, but no, it was last week, May 13th, episode 215, so that's correct. The date looks right. The one thing I like to do at the very beginning is make sure that the links are correct. So make sure that we're pointing at the right episode. Yeah, 215, May 13th, and pointing at the right agenda. Let's see here. Yep, that looks right too. And then the topics I covered. Yep, it's the pandemic edition. I'm still in my basement, so the Wi-Fi might go out at any point. Apologies. Here's some of the stuff I covered. Oh yeah, we were talking about OmniJar and how the HTTP cache works, and mock try. Oh yeah, we covered a lot of really interesting stuff, and we were using the debugger, the JavaScript debugger, to figure out some activity stream things. Okay, well, this episode guide looks great. I'm into it, so let's just merge this in. Thanks, SmurfD. As usual, thank you for your contribution to the episode guide. So what do I want to do today? Well, actually, it's related to those about home startup cache tests that we were working on last week. I think actually I should look at the episode guide myself to refresh my memory, but I'm pretty sure we were working on those automated tests, and we pushed to try to see if we could get like some improvement because those tests were failing in automation. And the good news is that we had made an improvement. So here's the try push that we care about here. We had made an improvement where all the tests appear to pass, except in one case. In debug builds on whenever we're doing the test verify step, we leak where apparently two browser windows on shutdown, and that's not good. We don't want to leak. So I was hoping to try and reproduce that today to see what's going on. Why are we leaking? And if possible, trying to debug it. Now, it's pretty tricky to debug leaks on OS X and Windows because we don't have one of my favorite tools, favorite debugging tools for leaks is RR. I know a lot of people like to use Valgrind. Valgrind's good for like traditional memory leaks, but for this type of memory leak in Firefox, where we do a lot of our own like memory management, we're using something called JEmalloc, and we have like a cycle collector. I find that Valgrind can be a little difficult to use, whereas if you're using RR in some of our GC and CC logs, that information can be kind of parsed and made palatable. What am I trying to say? That oftentimes, in my experience, leads to a greater probability of solving the shutdown leaks. And I am by no means a leak hunting expert. There are people at Mozilla who are very, very good at hunting leaks. I am not one of them, but I've had to do it before, and I'm going to try and do it again today. And the first step is trying to reproduce the issue. So I actually, if I have any hope of doing this, it's on my Linux machine using RR. So I need to be able to reproduce this on my Linux box. So let me first sign into my Linux box. So here is my Linux box, and use Biobu. So here is a fresh build I did this morning. So this revision is May 20th. That's this morning. I want to pull down the changes that are in here, but I want to rebase them on Central. So let's see. I'm gonna take this revision. I can just like hit that little that clipboard button. I think that actually puts it in my my clipboard history. I'm having a hard time speaking today. I don't know what the dealio is. And we're gonna pull those changes down from try into my repository, and I'm gonna rebase them on top of Central. Pull. I hope everyone's doing well out there. I made my own cold brew coffee like a real hipster, but I did it all wrong. I used the wrong kind of coffee and the wrong sort of coarseness of grind. So it is a caffeinated brown beverage, but I wouldn't call it a very pleasant drink. But I'm going through it because I don't like to waste things. Okay, so our pull is done. I am now going to rebase these three changes on top of Central. Because this is where I am right now. You can see this little @ symbol is where I am, and these are the three changes that I just pulled down, and they are they're further up the tree because HG Graphlog, that's the thing that we're looking at right now, orders the commits by the date that they were inserted. So these were inserted more recently, but they are not like a descendant or anything of this change. So I need to rebase them on top of Central, and then I'll update. So let's take a look. Let's rebase from here. Notice I'm using the double colon. That's important. To here. The double colon is important because there's a really weird thing about Mercurial where double colon essentially means follow the descendants of this line of commits strictly. Whereas if I used a single colon, it would mean follow all descendants between, like all potential branches and leaves of the tree between these two commits and then rebase them. And I just want this line. And there are no other branches or leaves, but I make it a practice to use the double colon because that's always what I mean, is just like take this range, these two, this direct line of commits, and then replay them, rebase them on top of central. That used to burn me a lot whenever I was learning how to rebase with Mercurial, is the single colon thing. If you are interested in learning more about Mercurial and how I use it, I may have linked to this before, but I'll link to it again. There's this document on how I use Mercurial for Mozilla. I wrote it for students that I help mentor who are hacking on Firefoxy things. How M. Conley uses Mercurial. And in fact, I'm going to put that at the top of my links section here. I'm just gonna copy, and that will be in there for perpetuity. Perpetuity. All right, so we've done our rebase. Let's update to tip, and now let's build, and then we're gonna try and run the test that's leaking in the verify mode, and then see if it's leaking. Now, whenever you're doing when you're running these tests, if you're looking for leaks, like the shutdown leaks are only ever recorded for debug builds. That's the other thing to keep in mind. So if we go back to this try push, you'll notice that like this test verify job went green. That was fine. And the reason for that is because this is an opt build. Opt stands for optimized non-debug. Whereas this is a debug build. And debug builds, we actually, like, they run a lot slower. There's a lot more verbosity in the logging. There's a bunch of optimizations turned off, like compile time optimizations. There are actual parts of the code that like are disabled if you have debug on or off. Like there's just a little bit of branching, not too much. But one of the things that we do is we check for leaks on debug builds, like shutdown leaks, and that's why this one's failing. So thankfully, I have, like, this build is a debug build. If we look at Moz config, I'm using my debug Moz config. And so the test that failed, if we look closely, was browser overwrite cache, like every time. And so this is the one I'm going to run using verify. So I'm going to put in the path like that, and I'm going to say verify. And actually, verify might take a while. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to say repeat 3. I'm going to repeat it 3 times, and we're just going to see if that's enough to get it to fail. Because verify can take a long time. And if I can close the loop, if I can shorten the feedback loop. Shorten the loop? Tighten the feedback loop. That's better. The sooner I can know the information, the better. So while we're... hang on. I should do this in headless mode. Otherwise, it's going to complain because I don't have a display attached. So I'm going to say do it in headless mode. Hopefully, it doesn't rely on there being like an actual widget drawn to cause the leak. I don't see why it would, but you never know. So hopefully we can see the test failure occur here. While we're waiting for that... what was I hoping otherwise to do? I've got some reviews in my queue. Maybe we can take a look at those while we're waiting. Mike Capley has a patch to add a policy to control the picture-in-picture feature. The picture-in-picture feature, you may recall, is something that we were working on for a long time on this stream. We were trying, I think it was like over the course of about a year, we were trying to, get it tuned up and working, and eventually it shipped, and to great fanfare. Like, people seem to really like it. And now we're adding an enterprise release policy. If you're not familiar with our enterprise policies, this is a way for like system administrators, basically the people who actually own the computers in enterprise environments. They like to be able to configure the computers in their environment for a variety of reasons. Like it might be an institution, for example, like a library or a university or a workplace. Who knows? Where the computers have all been issued to you, and the system administrator might want to be able to control like how Firefox works on those machines using things like Windows group, like the group policy or group, what's it called? I think it's WGP. Yeah, Windows Group Policy. Anyways, this is a way of exposing capabilities to Windows Group Policy, so that not just Windows Group Policy, but also via like a JSON file if you're on Mac OS or Linux, to control parts of the browser. And so what he's done is he's added to our policies module a picture-in-picture property, and it says like on before add-ons, we check to see if the picture-in-picture feature is enabled in the policy. Oh, we check to see whether or not the enabled flag is set, because like you can say enabled false. So we check to see if it's in there, and if it is, then we set it to the value of enabled, and then we check to see if it's locked, and if it is locked, then we lock the preference. And locking the preference makes it so that the user who is using the machine, because the system administrator has greater rights over the machine, they can lock the preference so the user can't change it. Okay, so there are two parts to this. I mean, this looks pretty straightforward. This is how a lot of our policies work, is a lot of them are just pref flips. And this looks right. So like before add-ons are even like loaded up, we check this property, and then we set the preference as appropriate. And this is the right preference. Let me just double check, but I'm pretty sure this is the right preference. That is correct. That is the right preference. And then there's no typo in there. It's the same thing. Yep. So we lock it. That looks good. And the schema is what we use to validate the enterprise policy object. Aha! Hold on. Stop the presses. We have our leak on Linux, on our Linux box. And we didn't even need to repeat. We didn't even need verify. What happens if we just run it once? Maybe if we don't repeat, we'll leak. That would be even better. So let's see what happens if we just run it once. It's possible that we'll need to run it twice or 3 times to cause it to leak, but this is good to know. We just want to find the minimal steps to reproduce this leak, and then we can start investigating it. And I'll show you how I investigate leaks. There's a little bit of a blueprint. All right. So the schema is used to sort of validate the JSON representation of the policies that are being applied. And what we say is we take an object type for the picture-in-picture property, and then there's an enabled and a locked property on it. The enabled property is a Boolean. Both of them are Booleans. And then there's a test. Thankfully, this module is really well tested. We make sure that, in this test case, we say it's not enabled, and then we say it's locked. Wait, how does this work? Test simple pref policies. Oh, I see. Wait, what? Locked pref, what? Oh, I see, sorry. Locked prefs. Originally, I was like, why locked prefs? This is like this false is saying unlocked or something. But no, this is saying these are locked preferences and they're set to false, which is exactly what we want here. The preference is set to false and it is true. And like the locked setting is true. So this is a locked preference set to false, which is what we want. So this test makes sense. Enable or disable picture in picture. This looks fine to me. I like it. So I'm into this. It's got test. It's very clean. This looks great. Thanks. Let's take it. We've got our test now running a single time. We're going to see if we leak. We're almost there. I'm going to show you actually the blueprint we're going to use to try and investigate this. Okay, good. We only have to run it once and we leak. We don't even need to do the repeat or verify or anything. Just running it once is enough to leak, which is interesting because I would have expected it to leak whenever it ran in the sort of the debug case over here. Let's see where this test ran. This is a neat feature. I'm not sure if you've ever used Tree Herder. You might be interested in this. You can filter the jobs based on what tests ran. I don't know if you just saw me do. I'm going to repeat what I just did. I clicked on this little filter button, and I'm saying I want to filter on the test path, and then I put in the name of the test, and then I hit add. And then what happens is it does this scan over all the jobs looking for where the test ran. And it's not perfect because for some reason the test verify isn't being included, and we know for a fact that it ran there. But what's interesting is that this test did run in a Linux debug build, but it must have still passed, which makes me wonder if this test only fails whenever it's run in isolation, because I know that the test verify step does that. It runs tests in isolation. Okay, so this is great. We've got our test failures. So here's what we're going to do next. We're going to look up a blueprint on hunting leaks. And this blueprint is not by me. This is a blueprint by one of my colleagues named Emilio. And we're going to try and follow his steps to see if we can figure out this leak. And it might not go well. Like any other thing with the joy of coding, this might be a rabbit hole and it leads nowhere. But we'll find out. The first step is to reproduce it. Done. We can do that. The next thing you want to do is run it. Well, he wasn't able to reproduce it. So then he ran it under chaos mode. I am able to reproduce it. So thankfully I can just like run it without chaos mode, but I'll record it using RR. That's sort of the key part here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say mock, moki test, etc., etc. And we're going to say debugger RR. And that's going to run, it's going to run the test. Now, is there anything else I need to do here? Oh, we want CC and GC logs. Probably. Like, let's take a quick peek at the scroll back. Hang on. And see what leaked. Because in all this debug spew, there's going to be information about what leaked, like what actual window leaked. And like this one, this is like important information. In process 26458, we leaked the window with the serial number 1. Okay. So let's see if we can find that. So PID 26458. So these, like, here's serial 1, but in the wrong PID. So we're looking for 26458 serial 1. 26458. Here's 26458 serial 8 getting destroyed. You can tell they're getting destroyed because they have little minus signs before DOM window. That's sort of the convention. When they have plus signs before them, that's how you know they're being created. 26. There's definitely a way to search 26458. Six, 4, 5, 8. Here we go. Talk shell and DOM window leak. Serial 26458 serial 1 outer nil. So this is an outer window. That's the memory address of the thing that leaked. I'm reasonably certain. So this is the outer window that leaked. Okay. This is not like that memory address is actually not useful for us right now, but we're going to need that for later. We're going to need the similar information later because we want to know exactly the memory that was being leaked, and we're going to want to know that whenever we've got it in RR. And we're also going to want to be able to emit CC and GC logs. So the way we do that is we run with some environment variables. The window is not actually completely leaked. It's just leaked until shutdown, which means that there's something keeping it alive, but we managed to free it in the end when shutting down the browser. And thus the shutdown logs tell us what objects do we cycle collect, but not why those objects were kept alive for so long. Now, this leak is occurring not in the parent process, but in a content process. I hope that's not going to be a problem. I don't think it is. creates so what he does here is he creates a leak logs temporary folder. He gets rid of any pre-existing logs, and then he sets some environment variables. And he's like, log everything. And then he still records with chaos. And then he increases the timeout, which I think makes a lot of sense. You want to increase the timeout because the when you're doing GC and CC logging, things are, oh yeah, he mentions it here. CC logs are quite slow, so you need to increase the test timeout. So that might be enough information to do this. So let's do it. Let's use the exact, let's just copy what he's doing. So we're going to copy this line. We're going to paste it, but I'm going to replace this bit in the middle here. And we're going to say, oh, actually, I think I wanted that part. Debugger, RR. I don't really want chaos mode. We don't need it. We obviously do not need it, but we do want the path, and we want headless. So I'm going to paste that in here. And it might not be happy with the fact that I put the path between some flags. So I'm going to put the flags all at the end. Debugger. I'm not sure. It may have been fine, but I'll do that for now. So just so we're clear, we're going to create this leak logs temporary directory. We're going to clear out anything that's already inside it, because we might do this multiple times. We're going to be doing cycle collection logs on the main thread for every process. We're going to tell it to log in that temporary directory we create, and we want to log everything. And then run with RR. So in the end of this, we're going to get an RR trace and some cycle collection, and hopefully GC logs. Do we get GC logs as well? GC. I think we get GC logs with this as well. GC logs. Yeah, I think we get them as well. So let's run this and see what happens. Enter. While we're waiting for this, I'm gonna try something new. The people who are watching this on Twitch, or maybe if you're in the live hacking Matrix channel, do you have any questions about the Firefox source code? Or maybe some of the stuff you're seeing me do, or with Mercurial? Do you have any questions? Because I could field some questions while we're waiting for this RR thing to collect. I just feel like maybe that's a better use of the stream time than me suddenly context switching over to another code review. Although maybe we'll do that too, but we'll see. I just want to try this out. Any questions? I'm looking at the Twitch chat. I'm looking at the Matrix. Any questions at all? I'm gonna open the floor for the next couple of seconds while we wait for this this test run to go. Just gonna open the floor. Just the floor is open. If you have any questions about the source code, JavaScript, C++, my experience with Rust, maybe some of the features inside of Firefox and how they work. I don't know. How I made my cold brew coffee, even though it's kind of terrible. Just putting it out there in case people want to ask. You don't have to. If there's no questions, that's fine. But, we're just waiting for this cycle collection thing to finish up. So hopefully we're actually going to see some things get written. I don't know if there'll already be things in there, but let's take a look. Some things have already been written. But we're gonna wait for the whole thing to finish up. And once these logs are written, we're going to want to make sure we get them out of this temporary directory, move them into like a working directory in like my home directory or something, so that they don't accidentally get like unloaded and erased. Because if it's not immediately obvious, stuff inside your temporary directory can be erased at will by your operating system. Presumably it waits until all the file handles are gone on a temporary file, but you shouldn't just like presume then. The question is, when are we going to update to 2004? Do you mean, are you talking about like Ubuntu, the Ubuntu release? Like, when am I going to update my Ubuntu release to 2004? Because I'm using 1804 right now. Good question. I should probably do it in the short term. Yeah, I haven't done an operating system upgrade on this machine in a while. I guess part of me is gonna wait until work is a little less crazy. I don't like to do OS updates until there's kind of like a lull between projects, because the last thing I need to do is to derail a scheduled project or something, because my computer's broken. Because I screwed up an upgrade, or the upgrade failed. I mean, oftentimes the upgrade goes really smoothly and things go fine, but more than once, especially in university when I was doing a lot more Linuxy stuff, and maybe it's because I had a freaky like customized Linux distribution, but every time I did an OS upgrade, I needed to like recompile a bunch of parts of my kernel, and it was a pain in the butt. I know that that's not the case with like just a stock Ubuntu instance. Like, the updates are usually pretty smooth, but I don't want to risk it. That's just something I learned early on, because I've been burned by that, where you're like, oh, I'll just apply this update, and now my computer's out of service for 2 days because I have to send it into the shop because something went wrong. So that's my answer. When will I upgrade to 2004? I'm gonna say in the next month or so, but don't hold me to that. We'll wait until there's a lull in the project. So that was a great question. Thank you very much, Danny Colin, for the question. We're almost done collecting these logs, but there might be time for another question. In case people have them, just drop them into the Twitch chat or the Matrix channel, and I'll do my best to answer. Some more logs getting written. That's great. Log. Let's see. Oh, here's one from Okris. Here, I'm going to read it verbally, like as I read it. So hopefully there's nothing like, hopefully he doesn't put any swears in there. It's a long comment, and I'm just going to read it cold. So who knows what it's going to say. Here goes. It's probably something I could easily search for, but since there are no other questions, how to configure install prefix when using mock? At the moment, after building, I run Firefox directly from the build directory, but sometimes it breaks and then I don't have a usable browser until something inside Firefox gets fixed. Since there's another, how to configure the install prefix when using mock? The install prefix. Can you be more specific about what you mean by install prefix? Install prefix. Maybe I'm just being dense. I don't know what you mean by install prefix. Let me know. Let me know in the Twitch chat, and I'll do my best to answer. Completing the shutdown leaks collections. Hopefully we only have to do this once, because this took this. If you look at the little timer on the left here, this has taken us almost 6 minutes. Oh, so Okris is saying, instead of installing into user local bin, I would like to install it in home user bin from mock. So you build, so just so I'm clear, Okris, it sounds like you're building, you pull the source of Mozilla Central and Firefox, you build, and then you run some kind of install command to install it on your Linux machine. If so, what is that command? Do you just do like mock install? Is that the command? I don't even know if such a command exists. It wouldn't surprise me. Mock's, got all sorts of stuff in it that I've never heard of. Okris does, I do mock configure, mock build, and run from inside build. I never did mock install, but would like to do. Oh, I see. So is the idea that you snapshot, like you do mock run, mock build, mock configure, mock build, and then run from inside. You want to be able to like snapshot. So in case another build in the future fails, you haven't got like a busted browser. Is that the idea? Okay. That for the people who can't see the Twitch chat, that is the idea. Mock package is exactly the right answer. I think Mac put that in there. I don't know who Mac is, but that's a great answer. So mock package is the command that you can run that basically zips together. Well, it really depends on the operating system. In your case, it'll be Mac. It'll be Linux. When you run mock package, it creates, I think, a tar file, a tar gz of the build, and then you can like unzip that somewhere and run it in isolation. So whenever you run mock package, this is done now, but before I go, I'm just gonna run mock package, and so you can see what it's gonna do. So this hopefully won't take long. Packaging is reasonably straightforward, I think. You know what? I've never done mock package, I think, on an Ubuntu machine. I've definitely done it on Mac OS. Mock package on Mac OS will create a DMG, a disk image. On Windows, it'll create a zip file. There's like a bunch of other artifacts that it creates, but like ultimately the thing that I find most important that it creates is like a single file that you can use to move stuff around. You could like build on one machine, take that zip file after you've packaged, and then like transfer it to a different machine, and then you can like test your build on another machine. That's what I tend to do whenever I want to like move a test build around. I use mock package. So I presume on on Ubuntu it'll be like a tar gz, but we'll see. I'm not gonna wait for this to finish before moving on though, because we've got our leak. So what I'm gonna start doing is taking notes, because this is whenever things start getting a little bit it gets really hairy. Leak hunting. I'm going to put this here. I say hairy because I'm going to have to start remembering like memory addresses and maybe even event numbers, all sorts of stuff. Okay, so it finished its mock package. I'll show you where the zip file goes. It goes under your object directory. In this case, my object directory is just this folder called debug. But yours will probably be something else. Usually by default, it starts with obj, like obj, like, I don't know what it'll be. It's like obj, and then like a machine identifier or like an architecture identifier. In this case, my object directory is just called debug. And inside here, there will be a folder called dist. Dist, I believe, stands for distribution. And it created this, it's not a tar gz, it's a tar bz2. This is the file that gets created. And for Ocris, it's obj x8664 PC Linux GNU Linux. Just so you know, it's called GNU Linux. Anyways, this tar bz2, that's your executable. It's in there. So just take that, plop it somewhere else, uncompress it, and you're good to go. So let's get more information. Okay, so our leaky window, we're gonna start extracting information that we find from this log. Oh, and I also want to copy the files from the temporary directory before I lose them. Okay, so let's move all of these. I think I've got like a projects leak. Yeah, I've got like a leak folder. Whenever I do leak investigations, I'm going to create a new directory, leak. Today is May 20th. And I'm going to move all of these. Oh boy, are they gone? Okay, good. Move.log into projects leak 2020-05. Good. So now these are safe. And that's good. And because there's like a bunch of Python scripts that we can use to manipulate, that will manipulate these log files. We can get some useful information out of them. Okay, so the first piece of useful information from this log is the PID and the serial number of the window that leaked. There were two windows that leaked. PID 36399 is the PID process. Blah, blah, blah. The process that leaked Windows was this one, 36399, and the serial numbers of the leaked Windows were 8 and 12. So that's useful, especially because if I start booting up RR, it means I can just like attach to this process and I can ignore all the other processes that got launched, and that's important. So let me distill this down into something more readable. Process with leak 36399. Leaked serials 8, 12. Let's get more information. 36399. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start peering through this log looking for 36399. When did I? Here we go. So 36399. Here we go. That's when this is a child process, so obviously is a content process. Content process with leak 36399. And then serial numbers. Let's get some serial numbers here. I think is this dog shell window? Yeah, serial 1 and then 2. That's fine. We don't care about 1 and 2. We want 8 and 9. 36399 or 8 and 12, sorry. 36399. Serial 6, 7. Eight. Here's 36399 serial 8. So let's snip this out. It happened first. So I'm going to organize these like, oh, my microphone stand nearly fell over. Sorry. You going to be okay? I got to put something heavy on it. Hold on. I've got real like cable access production values here. I just put a heavy bag on top of my microphone stand leg. Yeah, I like to put these things in like the correct log order, so that's why I put it at the top. So there's 8, and then the next one was 12. That's what we wanted, 12. Right here. And that, I like right away, some useful information here is that these are the memory addresses of the windows that leaked. And what's also interesting is that both of them are related to one another. Like, notice that the outer window, so there's this notion in how we do, oh boy, how do I explain inner and outer windows? There's a document that you should read if you're curious about inner and outer windows. And outer windows. Inner and outer windows. This helps to sort of understand the, let's see, inner and outer windows. And what's important to realize is that Windows, and by Windows I mean like whenever you type in like window in here, this is kind of like what I mean. This kind of window. So not the browser window, but like a DOM window, a thing that contains DOM nodes and stuff. There's an inner one and outer one, and they usually travel in pairs. So when there's one, there's another. And in this case, if we look at our log, let's go back to this. It's a pair of like an inner and outer window pair. And you can tell this is the outer window because the outer property that's logged for it is nil. And so that means it's an outer window usually. And then for this one, the outer window is like we have an inner window here because it has an outer window set, and the outer window is this one. So we have this like outer inner window pair that's being leaked. So that's interesting information. leaked serials. So it's like an outer inner window. Outer window. Let me just get these memory addresses up in here. Inner window. And it's not clear, like one might leak the other. I think if you keep one alive, the other one also stays alive. Makes sense. So either the inner window is staying alive and keeping the outer window alive, or the outer window is alive and is keeping the inner window alive. That's my assumption, but I don't actually know. But that's useful information. And we've got these memory addresses. And I think that's all we're going to be able to get from the like just log spew there. But now we have enough information to maybe start looking inside of the logs that we collected, our leak logs. And this is whenever I really start losing some of my expertise, because these leak logs and analyzing them is where I'm just really bad at it. So let's just sort of like search them. Nope, never heard of it. How about this one? Never heard of it. Okay. Maybe it's because I need to actually analyze them. Find roots. And then let's see. What was the process ID again? It was 36399. So we can ignore all of the logs that don't have 3639. Oh, they're not in here. No! Where are they? Where are the logs for 36399? They're not in here. Do you know why they're not in here? I think I know why they're not in here. I think it's because of sandboxing. No, a lot of the information we just gathered is useless. If we can't get these logs, we're gonna have to do this again. We're gonna have to do question time again. Man, sandboxing. So sandboxing is a security technique. It prevents our content processes from like directly accessing the disk. I mean, among other things, it does a bunch of stuff, but like that's one of the most important things it does from a security perspective. We don't want to like directly access the disk. Is it right to an alternative place? Template clock. So it tried to. Log dumped. Log dump. It's trying to. Temp leak logs. It tried to dump them. Did it just fail silently? Folks, I really apologize. We're going to have to do that again. And we're going to have to toss out all the information that we already gathered. We can use the same format, but I'm going to do it this time with disabling the sandbox. Do I have log shut down? Wait, did I forget to do a thing? Where's the sandbox stuff? He has this line about sandbox. Sandboxer process. Isn't there a line about the sandbox, disable content, something, something? Disable content sandbox. And what do we want to set that to? 1. All right. Man, that blows. Sorry about that, folks. Anything else we're gonna need to do? You know what? Instead of moving it to a temporary directory, Let's just put it inside the project directory that I just created. Home M. Conley projects leak 2020 05 20. You know what? I don't even need to do that part. What I should do is, yeah, rm f dot log. Then I can get rid of this line. And then we're going to tell it where to put it. Home M. Conley projects leak 2020-05-20. Anything else we need to do? I don't think so. We're going to get rid of these other ones. Yeah, notice that it's all the same process. I got a feeling that was the parent process. So none of the content process ones got written. That's really unfortunate. All right, let's do it again. Question time, question time. Any other questions out there? I'm just going to take a quick peek inside the Twitch chat here. I see Max says, you could create a Moz config. Oh, this is, I guess, in response to Ocris about that package thing. You could create a Moz config file and a build script that does that every day. Yes, you could. .moz config is effectively, I think, just like bash commands, I think. I don't actually know. Other questions. While we wait for this is going to take like 5 minutes. Maybe while I wait for questions to queue up, I'll take a look at that other review request. Oh, yeah, this is a work in progress patch. I'd already given some feedback. So you know what? There's nothing to do. I've already given feedback for that thing. So no reviews. Maybe I'll take this opportunity to what do I want to talk about while I wait for questions and this to finish? I should have just a ready set of topics. We can talk about inner and outer windows. Okay, so inner and outer windows. What are those things? There's this document that kind of like lays it out. But the idea is you can imagine an iframe. An iframe, if you've ever done web development, is this box that you can... Oh, hold on. A question just came in. What do you think about an auto mode for picture-in-picture where if there's a video running in the current tab and you switch to another one, it enables picture-in-picture? It's interesting. It's a fine balance because you don't. It's a fine balance because you want to be helpful to the user. You always want to be helpful, and you have to make sure that you're not just assuming that what you think is being helpful is actually confusing or unwelcome. And I know that can be controversial because for some people, what you're describing is like super useful and exactly what they want. For other people, it'd be like intrusive and like, I didn't ask for that. Why are you doing that? Why are you presuming that I want that? And so there's a lot of like analysis, data analysis and decision making that goes beyond things like that. We look at telemetry to try and make informed decisions. And so what do I think about that? Maybe. There are other picture-in-picture things that I think we should probably focus on, though. One of the things I really hope we can get some traction on is caption support, the playhead scrubber, just full video controls, speed settings. Like right now, we've got the ability to use keyboard shortcuts in Nightly. I think it's in Nightly only, where you can like use the keyboard to track around a little bit, but it breaks on sites like Netflix or Amazon Prime where they like override how, the playhead works because DRM blah, 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 blah. And so that I think is stuck to Nightly for now. But if we can find a way around those, if we can shim some of those popular sites and sort of with a common interface for seeking, we need to, that's where I'd prefer we spend more of our effort, is with caption support and full video controls. And then we could start getting into like bells and whistles. Like we could do things that the other browsers haven't done yet, like multiple picture-in-picture windows, this auto mode. There's another mode, like, so on Amazon Prime, for example, one of the things that we notice that they do is whenever you're watching like a television series, I'm not an Amazon Prime subscriber, but I've used it for testing. And one of the things I've noticed is if, say you're watching a TV show and it reaches the end of that TV show and it goes to like the next episode, it like auto forwards. What is actually happening under the hood is that they're swapping out the video element, the video HTML element, with another video HTML element. So if you're watching in picture-in-picture mode, as soon as you remove the video element that's being picture-in-pictured out of the DOM, it closes the picture-in-picture player window, because we go like, well, it's gone, so close the picture-in-picture player window. And so that means that you're, as you track forward in a series of videos on Amazon Prime, the player window will go away as you go from video to video. And what might be nice is a mode that can detect picture-in-picture is already open. So the user wanted it. We know that the user chose to see this video in picture-in-picture mode. And then noticing, hey, the video has gone away, but within a period of time, another video showed up in the exact same spot as the old one. It's playing, and it like we didn't like do a full site navigation. If all of those things are true, then reopen the video, the one that's in the same spot as the previous one, in picture-in-picture. Like that, I think would be interesting, and something that I don't think the other browsers do. There are lots of ways we could like make our picture-in-picture better. Right now, it's kind of like the bare minimum set of features. I think our discovery and like control surface is superior to the other browsers. I wrote a blog post for the Hacks blog that kind of talks about it. Let's see. If you go to the Hacks blog, it's something like how we built picture-in-picture. Yeah, how we built picture-in-picture in Firefox Desktop with more control over video. This was back in January. And how we built... I do an analysis of the other browsers, the other major browsers, and the picture-in-picture features in there. And one of the things that we do is we make sure that we opt for giving the user the most control, the most obvious and most control. The way that, for example, Chrome does it is, out of the box, the site can just kind of say, no, I don't want this video to be open in picture-in-picture. And then Chrome goes like, okay. They kowtow to the site, and they don't allow you to do it. Whereas we just let you do it because we're a user agent. So we're more interested in letting the user do what they want. For Safari, they're more interesting. They offer a couple of neat pieces of UI. For both Chrome and Safari offer a web API, which we didn't want to do because we want to make it so that it works for all videos. And who knows, down the line we might implement the web API that Google's pushing for, but for now it's not on the roadmap. But Safari exposes the feature in a couple of different places. One is if you're watching a video, then the audio indicator context menu can be used to put that video into picture-in-picture. And then there's also a button on the, if you've got one of those touch bars, that'll also open the currently playing video in picture-in-picture. So there you go. And I go into some more detail and comparisons with our implementation and some of our arguments for what we're doing. So you can check that out. Okay, anyways, 6 minutes down, and we've got our information here. Hopefully we have our logs. In fact, let me just, before we proceed and waste more time, let's see if our logs are where we expect them to be. Where is this leak? the leak information. What? Hold on. This is not the right error message that I expected. I expected leaks. I expected leaks. These are not leaks. So it sounds like there's another intermittent failure here. We got to run it again. But let's also make sure that we had, a lot more stuff, and for multiple processes too. So it was the sandbox that was blocking us before. Okay, let's do it again. Okay. And that's going to take another 5 minutes. While we're waiting, let's talk about inner and outer windows. So if you've ever done web development, you may have used an iframe. An iframe is an element that you can use to put another web page inside of your web page. It's web pages all the way down, man. And so an iframe is almost like a browser in itself, because it can have its own history. You know, it can go forward, it can go back. It has its own JavaScript execution scope. You know, lots of interesting things an iframe can do, and it's very, very similar to a browser window, or a browser itself. And whenever you are the one who is manipulating an iframe, you have a different JavaScript execution scope than the iframe's contents. But both of them can access something called window. Like if you have the iframe element and you go iframe.content window. Let's look at an example. MDN iframe. Let's look at the iframe element. So this is an iframe here. Let's open up the dev tools. Let's target the appropriate frame. Am I able to do this? Where is the frame? Is there an iframe on this page? There's an iframe on this page. Document, query, selector, iframe. Yes, here's an iframe. It's right here. Okay, so let me pump up the font a little bit. Pump up the font. Okay, so we have our iframe, and we can access this thing called content window on it. Content window, for example, could tell us the location. We could tell it to go back, I think. Content navigator. Can we tell it to go back? Maybe this has been changed because of, I've got fission enabled, so that's probably going to make things harder. But historically, you've been able to tell it to go back and go forward and stuff. And what I'm talking to whenever I do this is the outer window, or like a proxy to the outer window. And then inside this iframe, it has this concept of the window, and it's talking to its inner window. So you can think of it almost as like a ball in a socket, where like the outer window is the outer socket and the inner window is the ball, and they work kind of as a unit. And sometimes calls get proxied from one to the other. Like if a window, if the inner window makes a call, it might end up calling a function on the outer window, like forwarding it to the outer window. And similarly, if you call a function on the outer window, sometimes you can end up referencing the inner window. And the reason there's this separation is because the inner window can get swapped out, but keep the outer window the way it is. That's kind of what this document helps illustrate. Come on, I had this document open. Inner and outer windows. Is that like, as you navigate, the inner window transitions in and out, but the outer window stays the same. That's what this is trying to illustrate. That's almost like a sliding window, and the outer window stays constant, but the inner window moves backwards and forwards. And then there's this notion of like the BF cache and stuff. So that's what the inner and outer windows are. That's the thing to keep in mind. This is still running, but we're almost through. We got like a minute left. The test passed. That's good. So let's hope we leak. Come on, baby. Show me them leaks. Ooh-ah. Yo. I'm looking for leaks. The windows are leaking. I want to know. I want to be peeking using RR. Looking at the memory. I need to see the memory. I'm going to have a reverie. Digging deep into the machine code. Trying to not let my head explode. Going down deep. Find that leak. Let it be brief. And then I land the patch. Naturally. Ba-doot-doot-doot. What do you say? Don't quit your day job. Hey, hey, hey. That's my little leak hunting rap. Don't quit your day job, Mike. I can hear you all saying. All 5 of you. 7 of you, sorry. 8. I don't know how many people are watching this right now. Twitch says 7, but I'm also like streaming it on Airmazilla and YouTube. It could be like, there could be literally dozens. There are literally dozens of us. Okay, shutdown leaks. Let's do this. Show me these leaks. Show me shutdown leak. Booyah! Logged a bunch of stuff. Akra says dozens is a lot. That's very kind of you. It's very kind of you. I'm not like a superstar, but you know, it's roughly the size of a classroom. That's not bad. At least in Canada. We in Ontario, where I live, when I was growing up, classroom sizes were like 20 to 30 students. That was like typical. I know for some countries that's probably like really crazy. Like, how is it possible for a teacher to teach 20 to 30 students? And the answer is it's really hard. It's really hard for everybody. And you probably want to have smaller classroom sizes. Public school. I love public school. I grew up in public school. Shout out to public school. Specifically, shout out to public school arts programs. If you know, teachers are having a hard time right now. You know, they're adjusting to all of this new reality and stuff. I've got teachers in my family. Some of my closest friends are teachers. And I love teachers. They work so hard. They're not paid enough. And yeah, we got our leaks. Here we go. For all the parents at home who are homeschooling now, you're getting a taste of what it's like to teach. And you're only having to teach like a couple of kids and not like 20 to 30 at the same time. Okay, so we have our leaks. Let us now hopefully gather this information up. So I'm going to start replacing all of this with basically the same information we want to derive. So I'm going to erase this. The serials are 8 and 12 again. That's nice. It's consistent. And the process ID is 66790. And now presume it's going to be the outer and inner window pair again. 66790 is what we're looking for. Ah, here they are. 66790. And here's our 8 and 12. Oh, this is interesting. The outer is null for both of them. So these are both inner windows, and both of them are pointed at about home. Wacky. What are you? Let's put that in the log. We got some memory addresses here. That's good. But let's go further up. This is them being destroyed after shutdown, because, you know, eventually we get rid of them. But let's see them getting created. 66790. I'll go back up to the top. Looking for 8 and 12. 8 and 12. Show me 8 and 12. Bing! Here we go. Here's 8. Leaks and logs, says Okris. Leaks and logs. 8. 11. $12. Okay, so originally they were related. But at the time that they leak, they're disconnected. The outer windows have been disconnected. Or like this one's outer window has been disconnected, but they're still both alive. Something is keeping them alive. Very interesting. What is keeping it alive? That's a good question. That's a good question. Outer window, inner window. Wait, no. These are the same memory addresses. Sorry. Okay, so we've got all of that information, and now let's check out our CC logs and GC logs. Much more stuff, and we've got hopefully logs for 66790. Let's take a quick look. 66790. Booyah! I see them in there. Here they are in this column and here. So now if I do grep r, someone suggested using -i. Okay. I'm going to now search for these memory addresses. Hey, there we go, in 66790. That's good. And then inner window. Is it in there? This is the good. This is the good thing. Yes. We see CC logs. Okay. A comment says, I wish I understood what was happening, lol. Hey, it's cool, man. Or sorry, I shouldn't presume, man. Let me rephrase. Let me start over. Hey, Nethys 52. I also wish I understood what was happening. What we're looking for is a memory leak, and we have a bunch of logs that are supposed to make it easier for me to figure out what the leak is. And slowly starting to piece it together. I'm using Emilio's guide here as sort of a template for investigating the leak. I'm not an expert by any means, but we're at this point now where we've got the RR trace. I can now like boot up RR and we can see whenever the window is allocated. That actually might be really interesting, is if we can see when the window is allocated. Let's do that while we're also looking at leak logs, because like this might take a while. So let's boot up RR. And we're going to attach to process 66790. It's going to take a couple seconds. Should I be on my soapbox again and talk about teachers? Well, what I wanted to say as global window outer, if this equals, is arts teachers, especially in public schools. In my high school in particular, the arts, even though I ended up going into like software development as a profession, the arts were like super important to me. Mainly the music department and the drama department. I was a theater kid. I went to university. I also studied theater in university. I double majored in theater and computer science. And by theater, I mean like stagecraft. And so not just acting though, but like sound design, lighting design. I was up in the rafters rigging lights. I was on stage acting. I was building sets, like sewing together costumes. I learned a lot of practical skills. I learned how to speak, how to improvise. I learned I got my posture corrected. I learned a bunch of yoga at the same time as I was learning linear algebra and calculus and C++ and like statistics and all sorts of stuff in school. And so the arts, I think, were really important to me. I think they help a lot in my job. So if you're in school and, you know, if you're looking for, what would it give me? If you're looking for a lot, this is going to sound kind of like PR speak or like kind of bullshit marketing speak, but like a lot of what we do, a lot of what I'm doing right now, for example, is if you break it down, it's telling a story. And I know that phrase is thrown around a lot. Like, oh, what's the story here? How do we tell the story? We're trying to tell a story here. But honestly, that's what we do. This stream that you're watching, there is a story occurring. It's not a very good story, but there is a protagonist. There was a beginning, there was a middle, and there will be an end. And it might not be a satisfying end, but there will be a beginning, a middle, and end. Those are the bare minimum requirements, I think, Aristotelian speaking, for a story. If you were to believe, was it Aristotle or was it Plato? I don't remember. Whoever wrote the Poetics. I don't remember who wrote that. It's been too long. But if you're interested in improving your storytelling capabilities, theater school is great. And it's also really, really important to learn how to collaborate with other people. Because oftentimes, especially in theater school, at least in my experience, you are thrown together with a ragtag group of other people to do impossible things under impossible deadlines, or very difficult things under very difficult deadlines, to be more realistic. And that's theater all day. And that's also sometimes software development. And so theater school actually did a lot to prepare me for the pressures and the collaborative work of software. Software is not, as if you're working with a team of people, if you're working professionally in software, you're generally working with a team of people, unless you're flying completely solo. But even then, you're usually collaborating with a client or a customer or something. But when I'm working on my team and collaborating, a lot of the skills I learned in school, theater school, really help out. Listening skills and presenting, and learning how to take an idea that on its face value, part of you in your core might go, that's a silly idea, that's impossible. But being able to say, like, hold on, let's presume it's not impossible. Or like, how do we turn something that, because that was sometimes thrown at us in school. It's like, we need you to make this person fly, which obviously we're not going to, in a black box stage where we don't have stunt people and we don't have like cables and like and insurance and hundreds of $1,000s in equipment. How do you make someone fly in an acceptable way? In a way that the audience will understand, and you just kind of do it. Okay, so we hit our break point. So now we know when this leaking window got created. We look at the back trace and we say that we received a message when we were constructed. Okay. So like this window was created whenever the browser was created. Okay. I understand. So we're early on in the test. There's no JavaScript on the stack in this content process, but we're early on in the test. It's like whenever we first created the browser element in the test. Okay. And then the other piece of information is that something is keeping one or both of these alive until the end. So the way that I think we're supposed to figure that out is by using these logs. And there's like this, so one thing you're able to do is like use RR to find out when a thing was destroyed to keep it to figure out what was keeping it alive. But also using the CC logs, because oftentimes what was keeping something alive was maybe a cycle or objects in the heap, like the cycle collecting heap graph thing. Blah, blah, blah. Let's start using this tool to see if we can derive some meaning. So there are all these logs. And the first set of logs show me what's keeping the outer window alive. And then the second set that I searched for here show me what's keeping the inner window alive. And notice that there's a lot more activity on the inner window. I don't actually know what that means. But it's interesting, especially because like look at how many logs were created. Up to 13. And then for the outer window, also up to 13. And So 13 is when we decided it was garbage, when we were cycle collecting. So it was like before 13, it was, I think, in 12 that something was still keeping it alive, and it was decidedly not garbage. So I think that's kind of important. We can ignore this one. So let's look at 12. And then let's look to see what's keeping the outer window alive in 12. It might end up being that the inner window is what's keeping it alive, but let's find out. So what we do is these scripts are all written in Python 2. So we're going to use Python 2. We're going to find roots, and then the log file that we want is cc edges -6679012. And we're looking for this memory address. So what's keeping it alive? Oh, that's interesting. An error is keeping it alive, maybe. A script error? A script error. See, that's something that I would not have thought of. But the log is saying that, like, the log is telling me that there's this relationship between this error and the thing I asked for, in this case, the outer window. And it's also pointed at the inner window, if you'll notice. EEC00, which is our inner window. So this script error is, I think, what's keeping us alive. And I wonder if this is like one of those cases where an exception is being thrown and it's not being handled correctly and something is keeping it alive. That script error is like kind of floating around. And what's keeping it alive? Let's find out. It's a ref counted object with one unknown edge. What does that mean? So like maybe there's like an asynchronous function or something that like takes this error and then keeps it alive in its scope. I'd be interested in knowing what the stack is of the script error, because that might help illustrate what's handling it. So what we can do actually is we can break on the creation of this script error, and that might really kind of tie this up, or I don't want to get too excited, but this might help us figure out what's going on here. Break and a script error with stack if this equals, then the address of the script error is here. And I should also put this in my log, in my notes here, and then this is the address of the script error. So now forward execute. Go, go, go. Anything else I want to say about theater? Oh, also music. I learned music. And I play in a band. And if they're like, I think for both of them, collaborating is like one of the primary skills that comes out of both the theater and the music training. Especially in band, whenever you're in like an orchestra band, I'd say it's less collaborative, because at least in my experience, what we were dealing with was of like we had a conductor, the music director, and it was like, just listen to what the music director says. He's got like carte blanche to tell you what to do. But whenever I formed a rock band with some friends, and we actually, we recorded albums and we wrote music together, and that I learned a lot about collaboration and like dealing with other people's egos, my own ego, how to notice when I'm being a dick. Okay, here we go. We've got our script error. Now, where is this script error coming from? Maybe if we could take a look at the stack, that'd be incredible. Let's take a look at the call stack for producing this error. Inside of a JS window actor protocol handle event. So we've got some JS on the stack. That's great. Let's dump the JS stack. What? The stack is empty. Does that make sense? I guess we haven't re-entered JavaScript yet. An error has occurred and we're going to call an event listener, call setup, report exception. Report exception. Oh, what is the stack? Stack. What is the stack? What is this thing? What are you? What are you? Okay, so what? This thing is being created because why? Because we're saying, hey, report exception. And we're saying report exception because inside of handle event, something must have occurred. Script settings inside of XP Connect, we say script error with stack. Let's see if we can inside some kind of callback call setup. F8 handle event. Use window actor protocol handle event. F8, where are we? We're actually calling handle event. What is the event? I have no idea. I have no idea. And call setup. Was it 9? I was at 8. There's like a way I can Control A, Control X? No, Control X. There's a way I can like, there we go. Finalize 9, finish 9. We call handle event, then 8. And then it's the teardown of this thing. Things go wrong. Error result. PARV. Error result. And reverse next. Let's go backwards. PA exception. What is the exception? In the stack. Reverse. 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 What is this exception? Where am I in? NS script error with stack line 172. So something is calling create script error. Let's log to console with stack. And that's from report exception. That's from call set from handle event, handle event. Like, I want to see where this exception came from. Exception, which might be a JS value. It's this handle. Reverse next. Okay, now we're reverse next. We're trying to log to the console that there's a problem. Ooh, we have a file name and a line number, maybe, for the error. That'd be nice. What is the file name? Inside React DOM. And then what's the error message? Oh, error message. The error message is minified React error. Visit error decoder and variant 200 for the full message. Error decoder. What is this? Target container is not a DOM element. Okay. And the line number. 238 inside of React. Oh, sorry, PM file name. reactdom.js. Line 238. Oh, great. Giant minified thing. 238. Something, something, something. I don't know what this means, but this is looks like where all of the errors are thrown. Throw error 200, like this one. Presumably this happens when we call render. So we're calling render. We call render on something where the container is not a DOM node, and not a DOM element. What the why would that be? What thread am I on? Hang on. Threads. I'm on the main thread. Okay. And this is in XP Connect. Sorry, logged console with stack. And that's coming from report exception on AutoJS API. Has exception. So there's like an exception thing. And there's an exception stack. Yeah. I want to know when this exception got created. JS report on the context. The context is the realm of the error global. Error global is the Auto.js API. Auto.js API report exception. Let me check to see which thread we're on. Look at the error number. That's if we are not out of memory on the main thread, we logged console. Find exception for console report. We find the exception stack. Section stack. Let's go up to here. Okay. M is main thread. Yeah, okay. So the error occurs on the main thread, so not in our cache worker. Do we have JS on the stack right now? No. This is in response to dispatching a DOM event. What DOM event? How do we have a JS? That's not useful. Still not useful. Not useful for me. Is Chrome? Yeah. And I presume, like, hang on. Call dump JS stack. The stack is empty. What is the JS report to string result C string? Ooh. What is that? Right. What's this? Less useful. Okay. What is this DOM event that we're reacting to? Handle event. Finish 7. What's the event? Does it have a name? Something we can cast it to that tells me more about it. It's a widget event. What is the widget event? Hang on, hang on, hang on. What are you? Event time. DOM content loaded. DOM content loaded. For some reason, the thing that we look for isn't there. Okay, I have a theory. And then I'm going to I'm going to stop there, but I have a theory because I have a meeting in like 15 minutes. But theory. My theory is that we are pulling something invalid out of the HTTP cache that doesn't contain the... What test was this even? What was the name of this test? Oh, no, sorry. What's the name of this test? Overwrite cache. Browser. Overwrite cache. Sorry, I don't have it on the stack. Let's take a quick look at that test again, what it does. Vim, base, browser components, new tab, test browser, about home cache, browser, overwrite cache. What it does, it attempts to inject this into the cache and then puts this into the script cache. And then we're like, hey, restart with auto shutdown right. False. Then reload. And then somehow some React DOM stuff runs. Despite this supposedly being in the cache. Okay, so the theory... doesn't contain what's expected in the DOM, expected in the markup, and then somehow React is being invoked, and it doesn't find what it's looking for when rendering, and then it throws an exception. This exception causes us to leak. That's my theory. So I can actually start working with that because I can start logging what's being pulled out from the cache and trying to figure out what is causing React DOM to be invoked and like dumping stacks and stuff. It'd be nice if I could figure out how to do that within the RR recording here, but I don't actually know how to like, maybe I could ask and figure it out, but like what I'd like is to be able to like, what I would prefer to be able to do, but I don't yet know how to do, is go back to the point where that exception was thrown and then dump the JS stack. I know it has to do with the DOM content loaded event, but I don't know who's handling that. DOM content loaded. All right, well, I'm going to cap it there. I hope that was interesting. Thank you so much for watching episode 216 of The Joy of Coding. We figured some stuff out today, and I got on a soapbox and talked about public education. Yeah, so let me know what you thought. There's a rate this episode link here in the agenda. I'll also drop a link to that in the Twitch chat just for kicks. If you want to let me know what you thought of the episode, fill in the form. There's a fun photo at the end of me. Collect them all. If you've never filled out these forms before, there's a little reward at the very end where like I take a unique photo of myself. They're fine. They're safe for work photos, but it's me like with like a filter, and collect them all by filling out these forms and letting me know what you thought of the episode in particular. I read everything that comes in and I use it to help sort of shape the format and the contents of the stream. So that's it. I hope you stay safe. Have yourself a great week, and I will talk to you next week. Yeah, that's it. Let me just transition. Well, hold on a second. Transition to my camera. Have yourself a great week. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. See ya.